Thank you. This is Marsha Noel, Assistant to the City Manager, moderating tonight's call. Welcome to everyone that has joined us this evening for our regular community teleconference. Tonight we have members of our City Council that have joined us for updates regarding COVID-19 and city operations. And just so that everyone is aware, this call is being recorded and being broadcast on TV 18 and our social media. All lines are muted except those for our speakers this evening. With that being said, we'll go ahead and get started with the City Manager, Jonathan Evans.
Thank you, Ms. Noel. Thank you, members of the City Council, for being in attendance, and members of the ICF Command team. One of the things that we do want to talk about briefly is the number of cases that we're starting to see impact South Florida. From the information that's been provided to staff through the health department, we're starting to see that second wave, and we believe the second wave is predicated on individuals that are participating in activities that have been a result of the phase one reopenings. Obviously, Palm Beach County is moving into phase two here quickly, and so we can anticipate that as people are out and about in the communities, that you will continue to see positive cases impact the region, as well as the testing that is done. There is a lot more testing that is being administered, almost 3 and 4 times than when we began testing throughout the county. So that is going to invariably add to the number of positive cases. But I think we must not be lulled into a false sense of security and think that because we're testing more, that's why we're getting more positive results. That may be one side of the coin, but that is not the complete picture and the other side of the coin. We believe that in some cases, individuals are becoming complacent and complicit, not wearing appropriate facial coverings, not washing their hands, not practicing social distancing, and that is why you're seeing some of the numbers continue to escalate. Specific to our municipality, we have seen a 58.9% increase in the last 2 weeks. We went from 55 cases to 87 cases. We understand that individuals in our community are out there working and participating in activities, but it is so important that we continue to utilize face coverings and masks, and that's why this city has been the leader in distributing masks countywide, and I would argue possibly even statewide. So much so that this evening I signed Emergency Order 2004, which will go into effect on midnight on Monday, that will require that if you are conducting business with the City of Riviera Beach or at any municipal facilities, as well as staff, you are required to wear facial covering. The language in the emergency order recommends that businesses, pharmacies, grocery stores, restaurants all encourage individuals to wear face coverings. It is a recommendation. To further emphasize the recommendation, I will be asking of staff to go to businesses and to provide additional masks when we get the call or when we are informed that people in these businesses do not have masks. We will assist in providing some masks. Also, I will ask that individuals out in the community, if we see individuals that are walking down the street and do not have a mask, I will put the onus and the responsibility on every city employee, if you have some masks in your vehicle, to be able to give members of our community those masks, because that is the only way that we can stop the spread of this. Some of the things that we're hearing is that 60 to 70% of the population has to contract this virus in order to get herd immunity. It's not an experiment that I think any of us are willing to take, and I think we've done an exceptional job in keeping the cases here in Riviera Beach down, and we will continue to keep our foot on the gas as it relates to providing PPE, educating, informing individuals, and slowly rolling into incremental openings of facilities. City Hall is open by appointment only. It still will remain in that capacity. We are not doing summer camps. We are not doing athletic camps. We do not have the facility that can safely accommodate both the youth as well as the staff. So we are still continually watching what other communities are doing, but we're finding that other communities that have rolled out some of their camps are now backpedaling because they're seeing the increase in the cases in their respective communities. So it's important that we continue to remain vigilant, that we are providing services in a different form. We still have individuals that are working remote. We have some individuals that are working on site. Crews have been staggered, and this is to ensure that we have the staff complements to continue to provide consistent service throughout our summer months, and then also be prepared for anything should we have to reassess the situation as a result of a hurricane or something impacting our area. Additional information, one of our employees at our utility district has tested positive for COVID. This is the third individual in the department that has tested positive. As a result of those positive tests, I have requested and we have met with staff and scheduled the entire staff complement to be tested. This was in the abundance of caution to ensure that in the event that we do have individuals that are asymptomatic or individuals that may have the virus and have very subtle symptoms, that we take the necessary steps to ensure that they're at home getting care and that we do not continue to allow for the spread in that particular department. We still have an individual that is on board with us that is monitoring every and any individual that tests and provides real-time updates to administration, so we're acutely aware of what is happening. But we're going to continue to monitor that situation. We are looking to acquire additional PPE as well as items to better prepare and facilitate our employees as they come back to work. Our employees have done an exceptional job as a result of this pandemic. They are listening to all the guidance and direction that is being provided by the ICS command team, and we are doing everything we can in our power to make sure that we don't put them in situations that are uncomfortable and continuing to operate the city in a remote status for the most part. Certain operations, your life safety services, are fully staffed, and their staffing complement, especially in PD, has been brought in to assist in catching up on some of the assignments and duties. But the chief has assured me that social distancing and all the enhanced cleanings and masks and tools that staff needs to be safe is being deployed and provided by the agency. Fire rescue is still sourcing and receiving PPE through the state, and Captain Mark Johnson is doing an exceptional job pulling in resources from the state through the county to make sure our first responders have the tools that are necessary. We have assisted in facilitating some of the demonstrations in the community, so much so that we were able to provide some surgical masks to individuals to make sure that they are safe as they participated in their constitutional right here in the city of Riviera Beach. And so all in all, we're continuing to monitor this. We're being as proactive as possible. We are also conscientious of some recreational amenities or things that people want to do, but just looking to do it safely, and that's the big thing. One of the things that I will be looking to task Ms. Franks with that she's not aware of until this call is I would like for us to maybe set aside a couple of weekends where we can do a drive-in movie, maybe at one of our parks or in the parking lot at the marina or something that is unique that our community can participate in a responsible way. And so be prepared for that, because we know that folks want to go out and do something, and maybe there's a safer way that we can look at doing something differently, or something that's from the past that now makes sense more than ever to do it. So again, to the council members, thank you so much for your support and your leadership and your guidance, and thank you for being involved in the decision-making process and helping us move through this pandemic as best as we can. That concludes my comments, and Ms. Noel, I turn the call back over to you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next, we're going to move into section chief reports. We're going to start with our operations chief, Chief Curd.
Yes, good afternoon, council and community. Thank you for joining this evening. I'm going to be trying to impress upon our community that we are in the midst of a second wave, and it just appears that the media is going to continue to try to spin this in any way, shape, or form. So I caution paying attention to the media now. This really isn't a second wave, and you're going to hear a lot of information out there, but there is no doubt in my mind, based on the numbers that I'm seeing, that the growth over the last 2 weeks in COVID cases has been exponential. As I've been mentioning on many of the calls, I'm going to run down a list of statistics to try to impress upon you, the community, that COVID-19 is still here. It is getting worse, and it's kind of changing as it relates to those that are carriers, those that are at risk. And I'm going to start with our cases in the state of Florida. Currently are at 70,971. There are 2,877 deaths that have been reported in the state of Florida since the onset of the pandemic. Here in Palm Beach County, there are 8,209 cases, and there's 416 deaths that have been reported. In Riviera Beach proper, as you heard Mr. Evans say, we are currently at 87 cases. When I had this call 2 weeks ago, we were at 55 cases. That is a significant increase in the last 2 weeks, considering we've been battling this since March. So we need to remain vigilant as we go into this second wave of COVID-19. The last 2 days in Florida alone have averaged 1,700 new cases a day in the state of Florida. Over the last 2 weeks, we have seen an average of 200 cases a day in Palm Beach County. As I've mentioned before, and I will mention again just to impress upon to the community how we look at this information, we always look at it retrospectively. What happened 2 or 3 weeks ago or a month ago that has led us to where we are now? Clearly, phase 1 reopening. Now we're in the second week of demonstrations. We're going to continue to see growth and spike there. We are on the cusp of moving into phase 2 reopening. That's going to put us another 2 weeks out. So this is not going away, and we're going to have to deal with it for some time. One of the interesting age demographics that we're concerned with currently is the 25 to 34-year-old age group. They have taken over as the highest percentage of positive patients within Palm Beach County. The reason why that's a problem is most 25 to 34-year-olds are considered young, healthy adults. Young, healthy adults may not show the same type of symptoms that those that are older may show, thus being asymptomatic. These individuals could very well be carriers of the virus, not showing the virus, going out and participating in whether it be recreational activities, whether it be demonstrations, protests, dinners, restaurants, of the like, and then come back home and possibly infect those elder members at home. So we caution that young demographic, and we need to impress upon them the importance of wearing masks, social distancing, and hand washing and hand sanitizing. There have been a couple of cases in different cities that have sprung up that have become a significant concern. As mentioned earlier by Mr. Evans, this is going to be going on for some time. We need to ensure that we are informed and look at these communities that are showing these explosions of clusters, such as Belle Glade, the newest being Jupiter, Green Acres, Lake Worth, Lantana, Boynton Beach. If you visit those areas, if you know individuals in those areas have very significant outbreaks of COVID-19 and are considered hotspots. Palm Beach County's Health Department is establishing pop-up testing at some of those different cities and municipalities to try to identify these groups and hopefully educate them to the point where they will no longer be spreaders of the virus. However, it has become very difficult. We know that the mayor for Palm Beach County, Mayor Kerner, has submitted to Governor Ron DeSantis a letter requesting that Palm Beach County enter into Phase 2's reopening. He has not yet received a response, but they are expecting a response from him any day. It is perceived or anticipated that he will be in favor of Palm Beach County moving into Phase 2. I don't know when that date's going to be, but I can tell you it looks like it's going to be in the very near future, with the rest of the state already in Phase 2. This is clearly concerning to us here at the EOC for those individuals that we protect within our community, because it's just going to lead to larger gatherings. And we just, again, I'll say it once, I'll say it 100 times. Make sure you're using your facial coverings, hand sanitizing, try to minimize those groups and gatherings so that we can try to at least minimize this spread of COVID-19. It is hurricane season. We've already had 3 named storms. This is expected to be a very active season. So in the midst of all of this, your EOC is also working on a revised hurricane plan to address what sheltering would look like during a pandemic. Palm Beach County is working with staff members to ensure that the training is being done. There will be shelters, a shelter in Riviera Beach that has been open this year. That shelter is Mary McLeod. However, due to the spacing needed for COVID-19, the capacity for that shelter will be reduced. But we are working very closely with Palm Beach County to ensure that there are alternative sites available for our community. Last but not least, we're getting a lot of good feedback from Career Source. Career Source business services staff and connects employers with qualified candidates for job openings. They do this at no cost. And for those of you all who may be interested or know somebody that's interested during this rebound, trying to get back to work, who may have lost their job, please feel free to contact Career Source Employer Services at 561-340-1060 and select option number 3. Again, that number is 561-340-1060, and again, select option number 3. With that, that concludes my operational report. I turn it back over to you, Ms. Noel.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from our logistics section chief. Oh, yes.
Before that, I just want to make sure that I'm noticed that I'm here. I had some difficulties getting in. I just want to make sure that I'm recorded as being here. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from our logistics section chief, Mr. Little.
The manager, Rick Little, section chief. I'll keep this logistics section update brief. We have noticed a delay in supplies that are sourced from China are experiencing delays in receiving their PPE supplies due to the custom requirements coming out of China for supplies that are actually being shipped to the U.S. And noticing this trend, the logistics section has started reordering replaced with PPE supplies 3 to 4 weeks from the standard ordering time frame to ensure that PPE supplies are on hand to issue to our employees and citizens. And that concludes the logistics section report. I turn it back over to Ms. Noel.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from our planning section chief, Mr. Bailey.
Terrence Bailey, your planning section chief. I too will keep it short. As you've heard from the previous speakers, we have the confluence of 3 extreme events. We have public demonstrations, we have COVID and its new rise, and we are thrust in the middle of hurricane season with 3 storms. The planning section is looking to minimize any interruption to service, to any of the elements of the city's operations as we manage and succeed at all 3 of these events operating simultaneously. We have put in place necessary redundancies and plans for continuity of operations as we move forward, and that is your planning report.
Thank you. Next, our Finance Section Chief, Mr. Sherman.
Good evening, everyone. This is Randy Sherman, your Finance Section Chief. Again, real brief tonight. We are currently at about 8,200 COVID-19 related hours, and we are just north of $1 million in total spending on the pandemic. I will repeat what I stated last week. Week of August 3rd, we will be returning to normal billing and collection operations for the utility district. So we'd like to get everyone's accounts up to date by that time. If you don't have the ability to do that, or if you'd like to speak to us about possible payment arrangements, please call us in advance. It is 845-4050, and we will work out those arrangements. I'd much rather speak to our customers in July than in August. So please contact us if you need assistance. And Ms. Noel, that ends my report. Back to you.
Thank you. Next, our Human Services Section Chief, Ms. Grimsley.
Thank you, Ms. Noel. Good afternoon. Good evening. This is Valerie Grimsley, YEP Director, acting as your Health and Human Services Section Chief. To date, Health and Human Services continues to provide food distributions twice weekly. Tuesday, June 16th, will be the last produce for food distributions with our vendor, Palm Beach Harvest. However, Health and Human Services will continue to partner with Feeding South Florida to distribute food on Fridays only at Wells Recreation from 9 to 11 o'clock in the morning. To continually ensure our seniors community remains COVID-19 safe, Health and Human Services has planned 2 mass distributions to occur on site. The first one will be here in the Estates on Monday, June 15th from 10 to 12, and on Tuesday, June 16th at Villa Franciscan from 10 to 12. Health and Human Services, with the assistance of the ICS team, provided a pop-up COVID-19 testing to the clients of St. George Ministries located on 22nd Street. There were about 50 plus persons tested. Dr. Sinatus and her team did a great job, and we will also be returning this coming week to St. George to provide testing results to those clients that were tested. In addition, Health and Human Services has begun working with communication to work with our community and the citizens to complete the census. We are assembling a team to go within the communities with computer tablets to assist our citizens to complete the information. And lastly, Health and Human Services has partnered with Councilman Lawson's office to provide mental health group sessions to community youth ages 12 to 18. These groups will begin June 22nd and continue through August the 6th. These sessions are needed to assist our community youth with coping with the various transitions that are directly related to COVID-19. These sessions will occur via Zoom. And that is your Health and Human Services report. Thank you, Ms. Noel.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from our Leisure Services Branch, Beach Group Leader, Frank.
Ms. Noel.
Yes, thank you, Ms.
Oh. Ms. Noel.
Yes, you can continue.
That is Ms. Claudine speaking.
Oh,
yes, it is.
Okay.
Ms. Noel. My apologies. Just for those that may not be aware or did not hear, Mr. McCoy is present on the line.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Franks, you can continue.
Thank you, Ms. Noel. Good evening, everyone. Lady Franks, Assistant Director of Parks and Rec, and also our Leisure Services Group Leader for our Incident Command Team. As it relates to our municipal beach operations, due to the start of hurricane season, which started June 1st, our beach monitoring team personnel has been scaled back a little, and throughout the week and on the weekends, we will still have a personnel presence with our Parks and Recreation beach monitors, our police personnel, and our ocean rescue team. For your continued safety, the monitors will continue to remind and ensure the view of the CDC guidelines, and also to make sure that they are adhered to, such as social distancing, mask on, washing your hands, etc. Our beach operating hours are still from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Sunday. And the beach restrooms facilities are available and clean and sanitized throughout the day. There is also on-site parking. Before you head out to our beach, please check out our city dashboard at www.rivierabeach.org and any of our social media outlets. Thank you, Ms. Noel. That concludes my update.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from our legal section chief, Ms. Lynn.
Good evening, everyone. As the city manager stated, he has signed emergency order number 20-04A, which revises the order concerning facial coverings and requires all people accessing any city government facilities be required to wear masks. Additionally, today Palm Beach County requested that the governor extend indefinitely the prohibition on the rental of short-term and vacation rentals. This is based on the continued spread of COVID-19, and that ends the legal section report.
Thank you. Next, I'll provide a communications report. Communication continues to provide information on various activities related to COVID-19 on all of our various platforms, such as RVTV Channel 18, social media, our city website, and under certain circumstances, we've even partnered with local radio stations. Most recently, we've utilized our emergency alert system to notify residents of the curfew that was enacted in the past due to challenges surrounding protests in our region. And this is an important tool for communications. Therefore, we're asking anyone in the community that has not yet registered in the emergency alert system to certainly do so. You can do that by going to the city's website, rivierabeach.org, and at the very bottom, you can click the emergency notifications tab. There will be an online form that you can fill. It's fairly quick. That way we can have your phone number in the system so that if anything in the future is to occur, we can quickly get information out to you, likely a recorded message. So with that being said, please let anyone you know that may not be in the system, if you can share that with them. With that, that completes my report. And then finally, of our staff reports, we're going to hear from information technology, Mr. Parzielli.
Thank you, Ms. Noel. Good evening, everyone. Information technology is continuing to support our on-site and remote staff and maintain city systems. In terms of support calls, home network support continues to generate the most support calls, and software updates that are automatically pushed to devices also require occasionally some configuration changes. Regarding our information security systems, they continue to identify an evolving list of spyware, phishing, and malware attempts. So we continue to encourage our staff to be suspicious of email, attachments, and links, and to forward anything that does not look right to our IT staff. The good news is the availability of IT equipment is improving, and this is going to help us restock some of the supplies that went out to the remote workforce and upgrade some of our end-of-life equipment. And that concludes my report. Over to you, Ms. Noel.
Thank you. Now that we've completed our staff reports, we're going to move into any comments, questions, or final remarks from our elected officials. We're going to begin with our chair, Dr. Botel. Dr. Botel, are you still on the line? Okay, I'll circle back to her. We'll have Councilwoman Miller-Anderson, if you have any remarks, comments, or questions.
Hello, everybody. Just wanted to say thank you to all of the staff, Mr. Evans and his team. As you know, we've made mention before. We appreciate all of the hard work that you all have been doing. One of the things I can say, we've been receiving a lot of compliments from people in the community as well as people outside of the community regarding our COVID relief efforts and trying to assist the community with whether it's food giveaways or mask giveaways or food distributions. And so it's been very obvious that the city of Riviera Beach has been looking out for their community members. And so I just want to say continue to do the good work that you all are doing, because it is certainly being noticed even outside of the city. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that today I had the opportunity to meet with Chief Curd and Chief Osgood, as well as the community members that are a part of the Public Safety Committee for COVID. And so I look forward to sharing that information during Wednesday's meeting. And that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Botel, I think you probably were having a technical issue. I think you're back on.
Oh, thank you. I think I might have been muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you. Again, parroting what Kashamba Miller-Anderson just said, I'm grateful for the high level of communication between city administration and our community. It's a refreshing note to find that people are willing to share their best information with folks out here in the world. So thank you so much, Mr. Evans and staff, for this update, and I look forward to seeing more of you on Wednesday night at our meeting. Thanks again.
Thank you. And finally, we're going to hear from Councilman McCoy.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Noel. Madam Chair, you said finally you'll hear from him, or did you say you'll see him? Because my question is, I guess the first question is, I looked at the agenda. I guess we're scheduled Wednesday to be virtual still?
Yes, I think we are scheduled to be virtual.
Okay. And pardon me if this was already mentioned. I came in late because I had some challenges trying to get in. Are we still under a curfew?
No, Councilman. This is Jonathan. The curfew expired on Sunday.
Okay. And is this management's recommendation that we are not ready to go back into a live in-person council meeting?
With regards to the moving into the other phase, our numbers are continuously going up. We are going to consider doing that the first meeting in July, but some of the presenters that we do have prefer to be on a digital platform, most notably Mr. Lee, and that's going to save us substantial monies to not have to bring him down. So he's requested, and others that will be participating in the presentations for the meeting on Wednesday have preferred to do it on a remote basis.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Ms. Wynn, you mentioned the governor's executive order and something you said, I can't remember, but can you expound on what that most recent order entails as it relates to us?
Yes, there was a prohibition on renting short-term and vacation rentals ever since the beginning of COVID, and the county has asked the governor to extend that. It was set to expire, I think June 15th or 16th, in a couple days, and the county doesn't believe, because the numbers are on the rise or are continuing to spread, that we're ready to do that yet, and we need to move a little slower now.
Okay, thank you. I recall you saying that. I just wasn't sure if I understood everything. So my last question, Mr. Evans, today is the 12th. Do we have any public events? And I don't mean, when I say public, I don't mean city sponsor or city co-sponsor, or any events publicly that we know of that's going to occur between now and our city council meeting?
No, sir, not that I know of.
Okay, and I wanted to really ask that question because it appears that events are scheduled sometimes and the word is not disseminated. There's no communication to city administration sometimes and to members of the body in the manner in which you would send the invitation. It's kind of word of mouth. And, you know, I certainly respect all of our colleagues. Certainly, you know, I think Wednesday I extended this thank you letter that we got from these three students that myself, Councilwoman Miller Anderson, and Chair Brotel participated in the graduation. And then we also had another graduation ceremony over at Thousand Oaks Neighborhood Association, and it was well attended. And then also there was the mask giveaway. And then simultaneously, there are events that pop up, and then there's this expectation that if we're not there, then by some reason or another, we don't support it. And I think that can't be any further from the truth. And I just want to make sure that if there's something that's going on, even in the event that there's commitments by other members, and, you know, we all have staff, and I would like to have some representation, because I don't want to have to deal with someone that would suggest that we, you know, willfully or in some way disregarded, you know, their initiatives or what they support. But, you know, we can't respond in most cases on a 1 or 2 day notice, especially when it comes to something I think that's very important to many of us as members of the selected body, and certainly the chairperson, who's a retired educator, and also Councilwoman Miller Anderson, who's also an educator. But, you know, we certainly were out trying to, you know, do our commitment in serving those individuals that had graduated. And I know there were some other events that occurred that we weren't exactly able to take part in. And I just want to make sure that I'm aware going forward, you know, if there are some events, be it whether or not it's invitation or not, you know, something of a magnitude that requires us to implement resources and commit our city facilities, that the courtesy is extended to us as an invitation, not just, oh, by the way, this is what's going on. Because, you know, I really think what happens to us as elected officials, and even prior to that, as individuals and as members of this community and residents of this community, I think it's a little unfair, and I would go to venture to say a bit disingenuous, because I think we really work hard. I can't say other municipalities don't, but I can tell you when somebody calls us, we respond. And if we don't respond, there must be some good reason. And if we all don't respond, somebody's there. And as much as we want to be at everything, it's almost impractical for us to do that, being that we are, you know, human in residence and have a family and other commitments just like everybody else. But in the event, I want to thank the other members for, you know, participating in helping us salute our graduates. And I can't forget Brandon Peoples, because in my mind, that's the most memorable. And the other commitments we have as being elected officials. So certainly I would like to see that the dialogue continues and that we're made aware of what occurs in the community, you know, whether or not we can be there or not. So thank you, members, for that. Thank you, city administration, for facilitating, because I know a lot of this stuff, just like everything. I just told the attorney, you know, there's so many things that happened to us in the last 14 months. I don't even think anybody can recall them all. But just since April 3rd of 2019, we've been through quite a bit. And I think it's really a blessing. And it says something to the tenacity of as a city and the leadership and the members that represent the city council and also the mayor, of how we have to deal with issues day in, day out. And, you know, we still have to show up. So thank you, members. And again, thank you, city administration, for your support.
Ms. Noel.
Thank you so much. Ms. Noel, could I speak,
Could I
please?
mention one thing?
Yes. So, Dr. Botel, and afterwards, Ms. Miller Anderson.
Okay. I just wanted to thank Councilperson McCoy for his words. Yes, we do need to be informed about what's going on in the community, because we cannot be at every single event. But I also wanted to ask Mr. Evans if we could consider making Juneteenth a city holiday. I know this is something that you know, is now out in the public as an option for people to celebrate, and I think that here in our community, this would be something that we would look forward to celebrating as a community. So I emailed you a little bit earlier today about Juneteenth, and perhaps we can consider that not for this year maybe, but even if we don't do it this year, then next year. So I appreciate that. And again, thank you, Chairperson McCoy for raising that issue. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Madam Chair, to your point, that is actually on the agenda for discussion at your Wednesday meeting.
Great, thank you.
I just had a...
Woman Miller Anderson, please.
Said it again?
I was requesting a follow-up after you finish, Councilwoman.
Okay. I meant to ask a question about the COVID-19 test results. I've had some people that are, I guess, still waiting on their results. Been maybe about 2 or 3 weeks. Could anyone speak to who they need to get in contact with, or what's the issue with that?
Chief Kurt, if you can speak on that, that particular item.
Yes, I know Ms. Grimsley has been working very close with Dr. Sinatus. Originally, there were some issues with the lab that the state had contracted with. Dr. Sinatus, who is the mission leader from the state, reached out to the state, and that issue appeared to have been resolved. I don't have the information on the new number to call. I believe maybe either Ms. Noel or Ms. Grimsley, if you're on the line, there was an updated number for them to call in regards to the new result portal. And I think there was even a portal where they could send in an email request, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Chief. There's a new phone number this is Valerie. There was a new phone number and an email that was provided. I don't have it with me, but Councilwoman Miller Anderson, I can send that to you as early as in the morning or tonight. I will reach out to Dr. Sinatus. We have heard from a couple of other citizens that they did not receive their results, and as of Tuesday, Dr. Sinatus has been working with the state of Florida to get that resolved. I will be back in contact with her probably on tomorrow. I've already sent her a text this evening asking to reach out to her tomorrow by phone to get some of those questions answered. So as soon as I do, I will put that in writing to Chief Curd and Mr. Evans, and they can disseminate it to council.
Okay, and I was going to say if we can maybe add that to maybe TV18 or scroll it or something, and maybe on the social media and on the city's website. I'm sure there are probably others that may have that same question, and that way the community will be able to have access to that information. And then
Absolutely.
I just wanted to quickly say thank you. I had not. I failed to mention this several times. The high school graduates that have been recognized on our social media and other outlets, I just wanted to say thank you for Ms. Evans, Ms. Noel, and I'm sure Walter and a few other people who have been participating in that and making that a reality. I appreciate you all taking the idea and running with it and making it a reality. And the parents and family members, especially the graduates, they're very excited to see that being advertised and them being recognized, particularly because of the way in which their graduation year ended. So thank you so much for taking that idea for me and running with it.
Thank you. Councilman McCoy, did you say you had
Go ahead. Let Mr. McCoy go first, and I have a reminder about the school district. Go ahead, Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Noel. My question, I guess I wanted to kind of find out, and I guess I'm looking at it now. Your request, Madam Chair, about making Juneteenth a city holiday. And I'm looking at the item on the agenda, and I guess this is probably more appropriate to take up at the meeting. And obviously there's a budget impact. And I certainly support the idea, but without going deep into the resolution, because I have not had an opportunity to really understand or dive into it, is this, Mr. Evans, the city closing its facilities because of recognition of Juneteenth?
Yes, sir. It would be seen as a city holiday.
Okay, so this seems to be a item that's been introduced by, let me see who's the introducer of this item.
Councilman Lawson is introducing the item. Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me say this, and I'll defer everything else into the meeting. Mr. Evans, in practicality, I really would love to have a celebration. Today's the 12th. I do not, as a citizen and a member of this body, want to see City Hall closed for another day and employees be given another day off because of this Juneteenth holiday. If we want to do a celebration, that's fine. I just don't understand how we can have been closed for so long, and we get back to the point of starting to transition in, and we're asking to close City Hall and all the business of the city. That's all I have, and I'll defer the rest. I didn't know anything about it until it was just mentioned today, and I'm looking at the agenda. But if it's the desire to close City Hall on the 19th, which is a week from today, then I have some real serious concerns about that, and I don't know if that's in the best position to put us in, especially coming that we've been closed for a very long time. And I really have had people telling me that they have to get a money order or figure out a way to get a check because they don't even know, because they can't drop cash in the box. So I want to let's have a celebration. Let's recognize it. But I don't see why we need to close city facilities again in honor of this. And if at the very minimum, Mr. Evans, we've done it twice now over the last 2 weeks. I could support us making it a city holiday, but doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, warrant us as a body or as a city of giving everybody the day off and saying you're paid for the day without us doing any business. We're only here for one reason. That's the business of the citizens of Riviera Beach. We can celebrate and we can commemorate all of these great historic events, but Mr. Evans, we've been closed for a very long time, and I just don't think that this is something, in my opinion, that warrants us closing and costing $125,000 without any level of service given to the city. And Mr. Evans, I hate to make this statement, and members, we know that there is no amount that's going to compensate us for us being public servants, and that's what we signed up for. But I can only ask that we be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, and I just would like to think that we can celebrate without telling people that they don't need to come to work. So that's all I have, and we'll revisit this on Wednesday. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Let me say that in my, I had not yet actually looked at the agenda. I usually do that about 2 days in advance of the meeting, and so I did not even realize that this was on the agenda for Wednesday's meeting. It only occurred to me in the last couple of days that this should be something we should celebrate, and I completely agree that we do not have to do it this year, but I think given that we have had so many days of closures prior to this date, that we should look at it to the future. We can celebrate, obviously, without closing City Hall, but I think in the future, years to come, we should mark this as a day to be celebrated by the closing of city businesses, but perhaps not in this year. So I agree with you completely on this issue, and thank you.
Thank
Last
you.
question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Evans, I actually watched a statewide news today, and I noticed the governor issued an executive order as a result of, in recognition of those individuals, I don't remember how many years, that lost their lives in the Pulse nightclub shooting, and his order ordered all of the flags at state and local government buildings to be flown at half staff. Did we receive that? Because I know that was today. Did we receive that, and did we recognize that? Because I literally seen that first thing this morning. That was something that I didn't know the governor had the authority to do for a local government.
The governor and the president, and those are the only entities or the only individuals that can. The city manager has the authority in the event that a member of the city is lost in combat. That's the only other caveat. With regards to the flags being flown at half-staff, usually that's provided to public safety. They receive the notification to fly it at half-staff. I didn't pass by to the point to where I recognized or saw that if the flags were flown at half-staff, I would have to defer to staff if that did occur.
No big deal.
This is Chief Kurt. We subscribe to an online service called flagshalfstaff.com, and it provides reminders out of government offices. We have had issues in the past where the governor has actually put out an order, but he doesn't put it in that reminder portal to go out to the state. I would apologize if we've missed it, but we'll do a better job on trying to track it, but it was not sent out to anybody in our municipal government or through WebEOC. So I apologize if I missed that.
Madam Chair, Ms. Noel?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, thank you for that. And it could have been an oversight because I lived just this morning, and I think it may have rolled out yesterday. But I certainly, wholeheartedly, I support, those victims that lost their lives in the Pulse nightclub shooting some years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And just an observance, I would respectfully request from the chairperson if she would just allow, following all our comments, just a moment of silence in remembrance of those individuals and in recognition of the governor's support for that initiative. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. And could we also have a moment of silence in recognition of the fact that one of our own staff people have lost her husband this past week. I'm not sure what date it was, but Marie Davis' husband passed away. And could we have a moment of silence in recognition both of the Pulse nightclub and of Marie Davis's husband? So,
and our P&Z member as well.
I am so saddened by the loss of a really fine gentleman. So yes, could we please have a moment of silence in honor of those deaths, please? Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It was Steve Hunt, who was a member of our Planning and Zoning Commission, who passed away a couple of nights ago, and we will seriously miss his input on that Planning and Zoning Board. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. McCoy, for reminding us about that.
Thank you. Now, a few minutes ago, I unmuted line, phone number ending 1222. I want to make sure I'm not missing any other councilpersons that could have joined us. Okay. Are there any further remarks from our elected officials before we move to adjourn? All right. So before we adjourn, there is a few things I would like to share. The first being that I've been working closely with, communications has been working closely with Ms. Grimsley's Human Services section to help with census outreach or to push the census. Shortly, you will be seeing throughout the city signs and banners that will be posted up to help communicate and to share the census. It's one element of a strategy that we have in terms of engaging and increasing awareness on that initiative. And then secondly, our next community teleconference will take place next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. We had to reschedule the one originally set for yesterday for this evening, since yesterday a protest took place. So we didn't want to interfere with the time conflict, so we had it this evening, but we will resume to our Thursday community teleconference schedule. With that being said, we want to thank everybody that's joined us for our call, and we hope that you continue to stay connected with us, continue to follow the city on social media, continue to check our websites, and continue to join our call. With that being said, please be safe and have a great night.
Thank you.